Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is Tuesday night. We are open season. I'm your host, Billy Allen, sitting here with Whitey from Queens, long distance tonight, and we've got Justin Elaine as well. We're tossing around a few things tonight. Julian Edelman the other day gave the word that, it came out that the Pats cut him, and he retired. So with Julian Edelman wrapping things up, we'll talk about if he's a Hall of Famer, yes or no. We'll also talk about Jadeveon Clowney being considered by the Browns. Sounds like they're progressing on talks. Should they sign him? And the Arizona Cardinals are looking nice with some of their big additions. How big of a player are they in the NFC? To the MLB, Ohtani continues his hot start. The Red Sox are 7-0 here in Boston over the past week after an 0-3 start. And Jason Tatum really has been ripping things up over the past three. The Celtics have strung together three strong ones, including a win over arguably the hottest team in the NBA right now, in the Denver Nuggets. So how good are they? Steph Curry is the Golden State all-time leading scorer after his 53. And the Taylors, the Bruins bring in Taylor Hall, a former number one pick and MVP. How good can they be with him mixing things up? So we're first going to start it out, everybody, with the biggest story probably of the week is Julian Edelman retires and wraps things up. A pretty good career, 6,800 yards, 36 touchdowns. And I think with him retiring, guys, I mean, it's ultimately like he was the ultimate grit player, really, whatever you wanted him to do. I mean, he put his body on the line for this team and probably got more out of somebody's 5'10" body that maybe anybody's got in the NFL. That's going to be the legacy that Edelman leaves behind for me. When you guys think about Julian Edelman, how do you describe him and what he meant to this team?
I mean, he was everything to the Patriots. He is one of those guys that drafted 7th round, drafted as a quarterback, became a wide receiver, became Brady's go-to guy, and really just separates him from a lot of other that came through the Patriots dynasty the past 20 years is his clutchness in big games. He was always there, made the big catches. I know a lot of people will say he was another player system. That might be true, but he had an excellent career. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer, but if there was a postseason Hall of Fame, he'd be right at the top of the list.
Yeah, I agree with you there. He's a hell of a Patriot, but yeah, definitely not a Hall of Famer. I mean, he never even made a Pro Bowl one time. He only eclipsed 1,000 yards, I think, like 3 times. I think a good comp because someone who Billy, as you know, I'm a big Hines Ward fanatic. Going back to college when we used to have those big debates about how good Hines Ward is.
we might have had one or two, yeah.
I would say that's a fair comp is Hines Ward. You know, like they're also Super Bowl MVP wide receivers. But if you look at the stats, Hines Ward has been denied the Hall of Fame in the last 5 years. He's got 1,000 catches. Julian has 620. He has 12,000 yards. Julian has like 6,800. 85 touchdowns. Edelman has 36. So, if Hines Ward ain't getting in, Edelman's definitely not getting in. But, yeah, I think Hines Ward should get in. Yeah, postseason Hall of Fame, sure. Is he a legendary Patriot? Sure. Yeah, but not a Hall of Famer, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think this might be a lot of agreeing, but I definitely and Ryan Hamilton checking in. You got to love Hammy and Hopkinton there with Julian saying that he had the best catch of all time. When it comes down to best catches of all time, guys, is Edelman up there with that catch they had in the Atlanta Super Bowl?
100%. That was that and the Giants catch of Tyree are the two best catches ever. And, of course, they're both Super Bowls with the Patriots in it. I don't know. I honestly think Edelman's catch was better, though, because the chances of him catching that, when you watch that in slow motion or when you watch that in live game speed, everyone thought that was incomplete. And then when you watch it in slow motion and when Troy Aikman said, "Oh, my God, that's a catch," I mean, everyone just erupted. And he's pointing up at the score, I caught that. And he's like, "No, you didn't. No, you didn't." That was probably the greatest catch of the Brady dynasty, was the catch. Hands down. And it could be the greatest catch in postseason history in the whole entire NFL.
Yeah.
I would say that catch probably is up there with the Tyree catch, but the Tyree catch was kind of like a freak thing. You don't really see that. I would say that Mario Manningham catch in that other Patriots Super Bowl was just as impressive. And it was
Two
just
devastating catches at the end of games.
Yeah, and then you got, of course, the immaculate reception. That was kind of also a freak thing. But yeah, I think that was probably one of the playoff big-time catches I've ever seen. That's why he gets immortalized, and people are even having this debate whether he's a Hall of Famer, because without the Super Bowl rings, he wouldn't even be in the conversation.
When you compare him to who he's behind Jerry Rice all time in receptions in the postseason. Granted, that comes with being on the Patriots for 12 years. He's in the playoffs every single year. But that also comes with the big games he's had. In the postseason, if you think back to all the great Patriot runs, there was always one player or two in those great runs that Edelman made a play on. Think back to even that throw to Amendola against the Ravens back in 2014. I mean, the guy just did it all. And let's not forget how good of a punt returner he was. He's probably top 5, maybe all-time in punt returns. When he was doing punt returns with the Patriots, he was top 3 every single year punt return average. He did everything. And let's not forget, he played cornerback for a couple years. He didn't do a very good job of it, but granted, he did play cornerback. He literally did everything.
Yeah, I mean, I'll always think of him as just like a guy that, like, you just saw him at his size, and you're like, how does this guy take that pounding and get up like week after week? And after the season, every year, it's like, oh, he had this problem, that problem. Like the guy is just completely every year. I mean, it's amazing that a guy. I mean, who else do we compare to him? I mean, that are like that small and that productive? I mean, the guy is a midget for the NFL. So everything that he's done is just like, he pretty much never played like a full season really, like a lot of times, because he was always hurt. So like the fact that he was able to be so productive when he was on the field too.
I mean, like, I think everyone wants to compare because, they play the same position. They played under Brady, Welker, and Edelman. Welker had a better career overall, but clutchness, Edelman beats Welker. And it's not even a question. Like, honestly, Amendola had more clutch than Welker did. Edelman was the most clutch receiver that Brady probably had. I know Gronk obviously up there, but it just was a great run. And I know everyone's thinking, well, what if Brady goes to the Bucks? It's not. He's done. Like, his are done. And his last image is that Seahawks game last year where he was unbelievable. That's a way to go out. I know after that he played games where he was just so banged up. Edelman's one of my favorite Patriots of all time, probably behind Brady, number 2.
Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing how good he was, like, at his size. Like, it's just like, even when you say it now, you're like, my God.
You guys realize that Brady's been throwing him open his whole career, though. You also have to discount him for that. Like, he wasn't really getting open. He was getting thrown open half the time.
I don't agree with you there, man. I mean, if you watch the games, the highlights of when Edelman is making these catches, if you even look at that Chiefs game 2 years ago in Kansas City, or 3 years ago, they were running the same freaking play over and over again. And Edelman with a juke left, juke right. He was a great receiver at the line, and he was a great receiver when he had the ball in his hands. I know a lot of it has to do with Brady. Edelman's, like, his worst part was catching. He wasn't the greatest catcher, but when he had the ball in his hands, he was a dynamic player. And he was a great route runner. He did a lot of everything. I can't agree with you there, man.
Well, he wasn't a deep threat by any means. He was kind of like a slot receiver on steroids. Literally, he was on steroids, too. Not to mention that.
Ain't cheating, ain't trying.
I'm just kidding, though. Edelman, he was a great player. I mean, I got to respect him. Respect the hustle.
I feel like with him across the league, like, you saw everyone after he retired, like, players current and previous, not just Patriot. We're talking NFL players. I think he's one of those players that you hate to play against, but you wish you had him on his team. He was respected by everybody because of how hard he played every single down.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of a couple guys, looking at a couple lists of guys that are outside of the Hall of Fame. Maybe we should play a game now with if you think these guys should be in the Hall of Fame or not. Some of them are still playing now and probably will make it. But what about DeAndre Hopkins? You putting him in the Hall of Fame right now?
He will be a Hall of Famer by far. I mean, if you're ever literally the best player at any position for like a year, multiple years, you should be a Hall of Famer. If you avoid injury, which he's done, he's stayed healthy.
Yeah, this is like his 4th straight year making the All-Pro team. So,
and also too, like let's not forget he was putting up 1,000 yards with who? Matt Schaub at quarterback? No, God, who the hell was the quarterback? Brock Osweiler. And then he had Brian Hoyer. Like, yeah, he's legit. He's one of the best, and he'll probably be one of the best all time when it's all said and done.
Here's another one I've had some fun debating over the years. What are you guys' thoughts on Anquan Boldin? You putting him in the Hall of Fame, or I feel like he's almost where you cut the line.
Yeah, I would say no.
Like everyone who's up to Anquan Boldin good can get in. He's basically where you would draw the line.
He just never just dominated. You know what I mean? He was just like a dependable old. It's like the Frank Gore type.
I mean, he led the league in catches. He led the league in catches. He set like a new rookie record his first year. He had over 100 catches. He was the second wide receiver they drafted that year, and he had led the league in catches as a rookie.
It's not Hall of Fame worthy though.
No, I just mean, and then you add some of the other years. But yeah, I mean, obviously, give your opinion, and then we can.
His downfall, not downfall, but he had a great rookie year, and then they drafted Harold, and he became the number 2, and then he went to Baltimore to play with Joe Flacco, and didn't put up great numbers. He is a Hall of Fame talent. He's one of my favorite receivers ever because he did everything, but I don't see him getting in the Hall of Fame.
So, are you going to tell me that a guy that has 1,076 catches and almost 14,000 yards. What's that?
Yeah, almost 14,000. I mean, that's more than Hines Ward I just mentioned earlier.
I'm just saying, if he's got 1,000 catches, are we really not going to let guys that have 1,000 catches get in the Hall of Fame? I don't know. I mean, I get that longevity plays a point too, but I mean, he played from 23 to 36. He didn't play forever.
Was he ever the best receiver in football for more than a season?
I think you could honestly argue that in his top 3 years or 4 years, he was a top receiver at 3 of the 4 years, his first 3 years. And then he was just consistent after that. Yeah, I mean, that's the only thing. I mean, he's put up a lot of 80-plus catch years. I mean, so I just wonder where we draw the line and where we don't. What about Jaguars great Jimmy Smith? He's been a guy that's kind of been it just seems like he can't catch a break. He was a Pro Bowler a few times, but, he put up a good amount of yards. You guys think he was a Hall of Famer? He hasn't been getting any luck.
No.
It's funny. Him, Anquan Boldin, and Hines Ward all have around the same amount of yards. But as I said, and Hines Ward had one more Pro Bowl appearance than Anquan Boldin. So I feel like they're just they're on the cusp, I think that's a fascinating test case, is Hines Ward.
I mean, honestly, Hines Ward should be a Hall of Famer. He's got those stats, plus he has the Super Bowls. What are they debating? I mean, I don't know. But
see that Hines Ward wasn't the best receiver on his team when they won those Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Right? You had Platt Burris, you had who else was on that team? Oh, God, who's Santonio Holmes?
Santonio.
He was the number 3 on those teams. He's a great receiver. Don't get me I'm not doubting Hines Ward's talent or his longevity in the career. Or career in the NFL. I don't think any of these receivers are getting into Hall of Fame.
Honestly, when you say that, he says, Whitey, he wasn't a 7-time Pro Bowler. He was a 4-time Pro Bowler.
Who, Hines Ward?
Yeah.
How many
No, I
did he
said
play for all the hits?
You said 4-time, Whitey?
Yeah, he's 4-time, and Bolden is 3-time.
Okay. I thought you said 7 or something. I was going to say that seemed like a lot, but yeah, he made 4 straight Pro Bowls, I guess. But he made one even when he had 1,003 yards one year and 1,004 yards the other. I mean, those don't seem like Pro Bowl years.
Those were years where the running dominated the game. It wasn't a passing style offense like it is today in the NFL.
Yeah, they handed Jerome Bettis the rock like 20 times a game.
Wow.
Big man to eat.
I mean, it's just interesting, though, that you could have those stats and 2 rings. I mean, he's got to be way ahead of Edelman, like, in anyone's consideration. I mean, if he's not making it, Edelman definitely can't, for sure.
Remember that's like Hines Ward was also – Tommy Maddox was his quarterback. Like, he didn't have a quarterback until Big Ben came. That was towards middle of his career, towards the end.
Yeah. Cordell Stewart, come on. Don't cut him some slack.
Yeah.
Cordell. So, yeah, I mean, one thing I think is interesting is every year we play this game where Jadeveon Clowney doesn't get signed for a few months into the offseason. Eventually someone bites the bullet and gives him a 1-year, $15 million deal. It seems like the Browns are the latest team to debate one of those deals for Jadeveon Clowney. Guys, I feel like he had probably like some of the best talent coming out of the draft however many years ago it was. And he just seems lazy. Like, it just seems like he rests on his laurels. It's like if he was a guy that was like killing the gym, I feel like he doesn't like put in all the work. How good is Clowney, and would you guys sign him for any more than a year?
See, I feel like Clowney would do great in New England. I only say that because if you look at his career, his best year, he had at Houston, but when he played in Seattle, he had a really good season. That's probably because Bobby Wagner was there, keeping him in check. I mean, he can't go to a team with a bunch of younger players that like look up to him. Like in Cleveland, they're just gonna pat his ass. Good job, man. You're doing a great job. Same thing in Tennessee last year. There's no one there telling him what to do. You need to go to a team where he's got some veteran presence to hold him accountable. He's got all the talent in the world, but he's super lazy, and he only wants to play when he wants to play. There's downs that when he's playing, he's a top 3 defensive end in the NFL or outside linebacker. But unfortunately, he's lazy, and it's crazy that every year he gets a 1 deal, and it's for $50 million, and it's probably all guaranteed too.
Yeah, I mean, there has to be a question mark. I mean, how can you be like the number 1 overall pick, but then play on 4 different teams in 6 years? That clearly shows you that the coaching don't like him in the locker room. He's either not good in the locker room or, like you said, he's just lazy, has no motor. Like, I know that they're talking about the Browns, which that could be really scary with him and Myles Garrett rushing the quarterback. But like you said, there's a reason why he's on so many different teams and people are giving him a shot and then letting him go. Like, why else would they let him go?
It should have been a bigger red flag on him, like in college when – remember that his junior year, like he wanted to go after sophomore year. Well, the college isn't going to like change their rules because you're that good. But then the next year he played and got like 3 sacks or something like that. Played like the first however many games and then sat out the rest of it to like preserve himself and got kind of like a BS injury. So I guess it seems like we should have probably like had a red flag on Jadavion, but it's like. This guy is so talented. He hasn't even been that great over the past couple teams, but each year somebody entertains his talent just because of the physical gifts he has.
Where is Jadeveon Clowney right now if he did that 1 tackle against Michigan in that college game?
Oh, my God.
Think about it. He made that hit the season before. He didn't even play the next year. He just sat out.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, as a junior.
Like if he didn't make that hit, he's definitely a first-round talent, but he's not going first overall. And like I feel like everyone teams look at signing him. They're like, but do you remember that hit he made in Michigan like 8 years ago on that running back? Yeah, that was amazing. Okay, but what has he done in the NFL? Career high in sacks. I don't believe he's surpassed 10 yet. He's the number 1 overall pick. Every season hurt for multiple games a year. And if you watch the full game, yeah, there's some great instances where he's in the backfield making a fumble or QB pressure. But 75% of the game, he's just nowhere. You can't even notice him out there. And that's a major red flag to pay someone $15 million. And it's probably all guaranteed. The guy just wants to get paid. He doesn't really actually love football. He's just really good at it.
Yeah, he just relies on his athlete. He's like that person who's, like the best athletically, so you work the least amount. Like complete opposite of like Rudy. Like someone who just expects to get by talent alone, so he doesn't put in the work.
Yeah. So transitioning on, the Cardinals have made a few additions here. They picked up J.J. Watt. They've got a couple shiny new toys in Malcolm Butler. They added A.J. Green. Whitey, you seem pretty bullish on the Cardinals.
Yeah, I mean, they're clearly going for it. They're signing all these vets, and I think the vets are going to have a really good locker presence. It'll be good for Kyler Murray, who's only going into his, third year?
Yeah.
I just think to get A.J. Green to line up opposite of DeAndre Hopkins, I know A.J. Green's been dealing with some injuries, but he's only 32. I think he still has a good amount left in the tank. J.J. Watt doesn't really stay healthy anymore, but if he's on the field, he's going to be a problem. And they did sign Connor. As a Steelers fan, I've been watching this kid for the last 4 years. He flashes tremendous talent at times. He can make some highlight plays, highlight runs. Unfortunately, our offensive line was trash last year, so he had no room to run. Basically, he got tackled behind line of scrimmage at every single play. But he's showing a lot of potential. He's only 25. Letting him split carries with was it Edmonds, I believe. He's not going to be relied on as a workhorse back. So because his biggest issue was injuries, he's been missing consistently 6 games a year. So if he can, not such a heavy workload, I think he's going to do pretty well. So I think this team is just, they're in the toughest division. That's the only pause I have. They're probably in the best division in football, I would say. So
how much did they end up paying for him?
I don't even know.
All right. I agree with you. It's good to have some character guys. But Whitey, how many games total this year does J.J. Watt, A.J. Green, and James Conner play for the Arizona Cardinals? Because every single player you just mentioned, you also said they were set back because of injuries. Malcolm Butler is another one. In the past couple of years, he's been hurt a lot. If this was the 2000s All-Madden team, this team looking great, fresh as hell. But, James Conner, granted, his offensive line was poor last year. He's kind of like an old school to Garrett Blunt. If he doesn't get any yard, any 1 yard. And A.J. Green's an all-world talent, great receiver, former number 4 overall pick. But he's been hurt for 3 years. It's not like it's been a 1 year. And J. Watt, he's hurt every single year. It's sad because they're all good players. I don't know if any of these signings are really going to work. You're paying players a lot of money for what they've done in the past instead of paying players what they're going to do in the future. And that's something that, not trying to go back to the Patriots, but that's what Bill's always been against, is paying for players that what they've done in the past, except for Judon this year, because that's what he did. But Jono Smith, he's paying for what he's going to do in the future. Hunter Henry, what he's going to do in the future. You don't pay for players what they did in the past, especially $30 million that they pay for JJ.
Yeah, so let's do this. Go ahead.
No, injury is definitely a concern with all of these players. I'll definitely admit that. But I'm just adding, they're going to add just a veteran leadership to that locker room, which I think even if they're, let's say J.J. Watt plays 10 games, but he's still going to be in the locker room, for the whole season, mentoring guys up.
Yeah.
And that's worth $30 million.
Well, when he's healthy, he's a problem.
Something I wish the Celtics had.
So I'm kind of more in the camp of Justin. I just feel like people are going to be quick to maybe put the Cardinals up there, but honestly, a lot of these moves don't even excite me that much. I would probably be maybe excited about the Watt one, but I honestly feel like A.J. Green and Malcolm Butler are not even really adding anyone that except I just would not be too excited about those guys at this point. A.J. Green was good when he was younger, but he's been hurt. He's 32. Receivers get old at 32. So I just don't think he has a lot more left in the tank. Let's do this. Where do we see the card? Like, do you think the Cardinals are better than the Seahawks?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think so.
Okay. I mean, I'm probably still taking Seattle. I mean, they won 12 games last year. I mean, they don't have the best offensive line, but Russell Wilson wins 8 games a year just by playing. I mean, the guy has won like 9 games every year he's ever played, I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're also banking that Kyler Murray's going to, continue to develop. I mean, he's shown like ridiculous a bit. I mean, Billy, you had him on his fantasy. You had him on your fantasy team. He's lightened it up. I mean, he had a few like bad games here or there, but he's shown like so much potential. So you got to bank on him to continue to develop in year 3.
Are the Cardinals better than the Packers?
No. Not a chance.
What do you think, Whitey?
You have to give the edge to the Packers just because they have Aaron Rodgers. I can't even tell you. I couldn't tell you that their roster is more talented than the Cardinals. They just have Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. I would probably take the Packers at this point, too. I just feel like they're really primed to kind of get back to that point. It feels like they were just a few plays from Aaron Rodgers away from it, really.
I would take the 49ers over the Cardinals, though.
Okay.
Even if
with the hole at quarterback?
Garoppolo will be the quarterback, at least for the first half of the season. You have to remember what's his name? Who was the lineman? Watt?
Shanahan?
No, the defensive end, the rookie that got hurt last year, tore his ACL.
Chase Young.
No. For the 49ers.
Oh.
Bosa?
Isn't Bosa, yeah. Bosa was a difference maker for that team. They had a lot of injuries in that defensive line, major injuries. That team is a running team. They kept Trent Williams. That's a huge signing. They also have another offensive lineman. The receivers are another year in the offense system. I think that I wouldn't be surprised if the 49ers won the NFC East next year, NFC West. It wouldn't shock me in the least.
Really?
The team hasn't changed at all. Same team.
I mean, I get that they're going to place a lot of it on the running game, but the quarterback has to do so much. You're really going to put that much stock?
George Kittle was hurt a lot this year as well, and he's the best tight end in football.
I mean, so you're putting a lot of stock in Jimmy Garoppolo.
You want to let him in the Super Bowl 2 years ago? It's the same guy. If he stays healthy, that team can go to the Super Bowl.
Don't you feel like that team was trying to do everything they could, though, to take the ball out of Jimmy's hands? Like, didn't they run it like 8 times in the second half of that Green Bay game?
Everyone wants to talk about that. Everyone wants to remember the game that he played against New Orleans where they scored like 48 points or something and he had like 4 or 5 touchdowns. Like, granted, they tried to run the ball. It's a smart thing to do, especially against the Chiefs. You're trying to keep the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands and run the clock out. Granted, Kyle Shanahan did do a good job managing the clock in that Super Bowl, but Jimmy Garoppolo had a good season. He is a good system quarterback.
The 49ers, I mean, they do win when Garoppolo plays. They generally are a winning team. I mean, Kyle Shanahan is one of the best in terms of creating plays.
Exactly.
And creativity in the playbook. He clearly has. He's among the elite coaches in terms of designing game plan, like designing plays, things like that. Garoppolo is not great, but like I said, Shanahan does have a lot of creativity in the offense, so they can utilize a lot of their playmakers like Deebo Samuel, players like that. And Kittle, of course. I mean, Kittle is what, the second best tight end in football after Kelsey.
Yeah, no, I think Kittle's the best in football. That's just my personal opinion because he does everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like the 49ers were playing like Nick Mullins last year or whatever.
Garoppolo was hurt.
So, I mean, you guys must think he was really hurt, pretty badly hurt in those games because you're basically saying he's basically good is what you're saying, right? A good system quarterback was your words?
Yes. And you have a system around him. You have a great offensive line.
So is that to say if he went to the Pats, would you feel good about the Patriots' chances this year?
Yes. You wouldn't?
Honestly, I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is a great quarterback. I feel like he hasn't proven that he's like great. He gets hurt a lot. I mean, availability is the best ability, and those like if you can't, you got to be healthy. And he seems to hold the ball too long. And I just feel like they were trying to do everything they could to get the ball out of his hands a couple of years ago. Like they were like frightened to have to throw it with him in that playoff run. I feel like so it just. And then the fact that they're playing other guys, I mean, I don't know. I mean, would Belichick ever sit Brady if he had like some of those injuries that he was playing through or something? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't think you really sit your quarterback unless they're not really good, You kind of go with them. But who knows?
I mean, he's had some pretty major injuries. Like he tore his ACL a couple years ago. I think he had like torn shoulder cartilage or something last year. I mean, these aren't like, he's got a bum knee or something. We're talking some pretty major injuries.
Isn't he like 29 now? I mean, he's not going to have much more upside. I mean, is he going to get much better than he is?
Okay, let me ask you this: do you see Kyler Murray taking a team to a Super Bowl in his career?
Yes,
I do not. I don't.
He just needs to how Justin feels about the Cardinals.
Well, this is my thought on it. Like Kyler Murray had a great season last year, right? How many of those games were these like miraculous, just like, coming from behind games? Like Kyler Murray had some great throws. He had a good season. And fantasy wise, he's a phenomenal quarterback because he can rush, throw the ball deep. But how efficient was he? What was his QBR like last year? I don't think he was as good as everyone makes him out to be last year. I think there's a lot of room for improvement with Kyler Murray.
I just feel like he could easily have a better year than that year that Cam had as MVP. Like just have one of those crazy years where he's just like running and throwing. And like, I feel like, he's young. I mean, he's probably going to have some big years. He'll probably win some games.
He's also super small. He's very short.
But people can literally not hit him though. He's
Justin, you think he's never going to, you don't think he'll ever make a Super Bowl in his like 15 years? Say he stays there for like 15 years. You don't think he's going to crack one?
I don't see it. I don't know why. I don't ever see Lamar Jackson making it to the Super Bowl. I don't see him making it to a Super Bowl. I don't know. Just when it comes to playoff time, we haven't even seen him in a playoff game before. We're trying to pronounce him as like the next great thing.
So in other words, you think Garoppolo will be in a Super Bowl before Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson?
Yes, because I think Garoppolo will either be with San Francisco this year or New England. And I think both those teams will go farther than both those teams will this year.
Yes, but you don't think the 49ers would be like better if they had Kyler Murray than like imagine the stuff that Shanahan would do with Kyler Murray. Like if he's making magic out of Garoppolo, I mean, what's he going to do with Kyler Murray or someone like, I don't know.
I agree. He would, but he's on the Cardinals.
All right.
Who's their set? I mean, they have.
So it's basically you'll take Garoppolo because he's going to get lucky and go to one of the two best coaches in the NFL.
I'm also taking it as like, let's look at who the Cardinals are signing right now. We're signing a bunch of washed-up NFL veterans on multi-year $1 million contracts instead of building a team around Kyler Murray. You should be building an offensive line around Kyler Murray because he needs an offensive line more than anything. He needs a tight end. He doesn't need a 32-year-old washed-up receiver. He doesn't need a 33-year-old washed-up defensive end, nor does he need Malcolm Butler, who hasn't been good in 3 years. Talk about how much money they just paid those guys. We're talking $70 million for all these guys. And like, how many games are they going to play? They're just the GM's just not making smart decisions. Kyler Murray's talent.
You realize though, like unreal. Brady is going to retire soon.
Yeah.
Like, but you guys realize though, like Brady and Rodgers are towards the end of their career. Like, eventually, Kyler's like, who it's going to be Kyler.
And depending on, some of these quarterbacks this year, granted, a lot of the young quarterbacks are in the AFC. The NFC in a couple of years could look a lot easier for Kyler Murray because a lot of the NFC good quarterbacks are older. I don't know. It's just my feeling. I don't see the Cardinals ever going to the Super Bowl with Kyler Murray. I could see him with another team.
So they need a better quarterback than Kyler Murray.
No, they need a better team. I don't believe in the Cardinals. I think they're not making smart decisions for their team. They haven't been for a couple of years. Let's not forget the year before they drafted Kyler Murray, they drafted who was that kid from UCLA?
Oh, that scrub.
Yeah.
The number 10 pick.
Yeah. Granted, they signed Budda Baker. They drafted Budda Baker. He's a stud. Isaiah Simmons is going to be a good player. Those are two good picks. But, I mean, I don't know. I think they got very lucky with the DeAndre Hopkins trade. That was a steal of the century. I don't know. Just my opinion.
Josh Rosen.
Yeah.
There we go.
I don't see it.
But Justin, do you realize that all these deals that they signed, like AJ Green's a one-year contract, JJ Watt was a 2-year contract, James Conner was a 1-year deal. I mean, they're not leveraging their future to sign these guys. These guys are coming in for a year or 2 years, give some veteran leadership, and hopefully stay healthy. It's only a one. I mean, what if JJ Watt tears his ACL? They only have to pay him for 1 more year. They're not hampering their future.
Their other best defensive player is Chandler Jones. How old is Chandler Jones at this point? 33?
I mean, he's got to be 30.
He just came off a torn ACL, didn't he?
I'm pretty sure he's out, yeah.
So you're risking a lot on all of this, and I feel like they're gonna get worse this year than they were the year before. That's all I'm saying. And I don't really believe in Cliff Kingsbury. I don't see him being
Justin is just killing dreams tonight.
I don't know. I've watched a lot of Cardinals games because I bet on them, and they lost me a lot of money. They just every time they don't.
Now we see the root of this.
They don't play. They don't play.
Obviously, this is why you're going to the end of the earth to defend them. Or
they don't play smart football on both sides of the ball. And maybe that's a coaching problem.
That's what the veterans are for, bro. That's why they're bringing in these vets.
Okay.
JJ Green's coming in. That's why
they're certainly
Watt's
paying a premium. Vets ain't cheap, apparently.
Exactly. You gotta pay them. You gotta pay AJ Green $10 million just to keep the receivers on sides.
I like these deals. I like the Cardinals.
So how good are the Cardinals going to be this year? They're going to get to the NFC title game, Whitey. Is that good? I mean, what are we going by? What's good?
I mean, I got them making the playoffs. They're definitely making the playoffs this year. They're definitely improving their win total from last year, bringing in all these guys. The problem is how well will Matt Stafford work in LA? How good will the Seahawks be? I mean, there's some function in that locker room with Russell Wilson. So, I mean, the 49ers, I think we all agree that they're going to be good because they have creative playmaking, and Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't suck. I mean, he can manage the offense. He's got a decent amount of playmakers around him and a good defense, with Bosa and those guys. I think they're going to make the playoffs, and they'll probably lose in the first game of the playoffs. But that's progression. I mean, you got a quarterback going in his 3rd year. Quarterbacks look at Lamar Jackson. He made the playoffs. He lost both times. Like these rookie quarterbacks, these second, third year quarterbacks usually lose their first playoff game. But that's progression, and they're going to carry that into next year.
Okay, all right. I don't think it's saying anything too crazy to say they'll make the playoffs. I mean, it sounded like you were talking a little bit higher of them, I guess. To say they're going to make the playoffs, I don't think that's shattering anything. But it sounded like you were probably talking about them in an NFC Championship type capacity. But it seems like maybe you're backing off that a little.
No, I'm not saying they're going to go to the NFC Championship.
You like them, you don't love them.
I like them, I don't love them.
They're the 4th best team in their division.
Hey, we talked about it for a second. We don't know how good LA is going to be with Stafford. Spoiler alert: I think they're going to be great. I think that you get him with finally a good quarterback. The guy that you get Sean with a good quarterback. Like he traded 2 first-rounders to get this guy. Like they definitely saw Stafford and want him, and to be able to take the cuffs off a guy like Jared Goff. I mean, I think you're going to see pretty good things out of LA.
Yeah, I mean their defense is what won them games last year. They have they do have the best cornerback in football and the best defensive player in football.
Oh yeah,
right. And they have other playmakers on the defensive side. They have a good running game. The offensive line is so-so. They have 3 good receivers, especially if Cooper Kupp's healthy. That guy's going to catch 115 passes next year, Matthew Stafford. That team is going to – I don't want to say they're going to go 13-3, but they're definitely going to win the division. And they're going to be a tough out. I wouldn't be surprised to make it to the Super Bowl because
they're the type of team you do not want to see in the playoffs for sure.
You do not want to see Aaron Donald and freaking Jalen Ramsey in the playoffs.
Yeah, so go ahead, Whitey.
Yeah, no, like I said, I mean, this is the best division of football. I mean, you flip a coin and you got who's winning the division. And you have literally the 49ers, the Rams. The Cardinals are going to be good. The Seahawks are always contending. I mean, it's going to be a bloodbath, that division. So it's really just, yeah. I mean, I don't even know who you listen. You think the Rams are going to win it?
I do.
What about you, Billy?
I mean, I guess I'll just keep my money safe and go with Tampa.
No, the NFC West.
Oh! I thought you were saying who's going to be the best. Yeah, I mean, I think I might have to follow. I'm pretty bullish on LA. I just like them with Stafford. I think you're just adding a team. I think you're adding a huge dimension to a team that's already a buzzsaw on defense.
I agree. I still think 49ers finish second in that division. I really do. I really feel like you get a lot of those young players, defensive side back, and especially George Kittle back healthy. There's a lot of holes. There's a lot more holes with Seattle and Arizona than there are with the 49ers.
Spoiler alert, Justin's taking Garoppolo this year. My Lord. Let's go on to the NBA. So Jason Tatum won Player of the Week. Over his last 3 games, he's averaging 36. The Celtics have won 3 in a row. Tatum grabbing 10 boards in each of those games as well. And them winning a really impressive game. I watched it the other day on Sunday. I thought it was their best win of the season. Guys, Kendrick Perkins called out Jason Tatum 3 games ago. He's responded pretty well. Is this him with the 10 rebounds each game? Is he taking the step? Is this just a couple games? It seems like he's elevated his play after Kendrick Perkins put him on blast, so to say.
It's hard to say with Tatum. I feel like he's taken such a step back this season, unfortunately. Beginning of the season, he was playing really well. I know he had a 50-point game, but let's put it into perspective. It was against the Timberwolves, and it was in overtime. And they were down by 20 to the Timberwolves in the third quarter.
They won that game. You got to give it on a team that's going to come back from a lead like that.
They beat the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves have 4 wins this season. The problem with Tatum is he's got all this stuff, like all these other athletes coming towards him. He's in the Subway commercials now. He's a superstar. He's a superstar, but he wants to be like that next guy. And unfortunately, and he's the talent to do so. It's just this hero ball, like this isolation basketball. I know it's it works with James Harden and, work with Kobe Bryant forever and Kyrie Irving works, but pass the fucking ball. Excuse my language. I just want him to pass the ball to an open guy. The team would be so much better. He might not put up 27 points a game. He might put up 25 a game. But that would mean more wins for the Celtics. Same thing with Jaylen Brown. Pass the ball to the open guy. No one cares about your stats. In Boston, we want championships. We don't care about your 53-point game against the freaking Timberwolves in the regular season. No one's going to remember it.
All right, I'm going to actually take you to task on this one because the radios have been calling this a fake win too. I mean, for a team that's just down on they could have lost the game before that. They could have lost that game. A team that's down by 15 points in the third or fourth quarter on just a random April night. I mean, I'll take that victory. I mean, the Celtics have not been a consistent team this year. I come down, to just come back from a game like that. I at least like to see that they didn't just roll over and die because we've seen that from them this year too.
Let's say, Whitey, you're a Knicks fan. They barely beat the Knicks. No offense. The Knicks are like a year away. They're a good team. They're fun to watch. They play hard. They're scrappy. And they have a good coach. They beat the Hornets without Gordon Hayward and LaMelo Ball. They barely beat the Timberwolves, the worst team in the NBA. Granted, they had a really nice win against the Nuggets. I won't take anything away from them from that. But these wins are
what would you be saying if they lost these games? My Lord.
I wish they did. I want them to blow the whole damn thing up. I've never had less fun watching the Celtics than I have this year.
I mean, you are complaining about style points here. I mean, a W is a W. I'm a Knicks fan. Literally every single game is down to the wire in the fourth quarter. We lost the Timberwolves a few weeks ago. So, like, on an NBA, on any given night, you can lose.
I'm sorry.
You can lose to a crappy team.
It's unacceptable for Justin to beat the Timberwolves, let alone lose to them.
You have to kill them. You know, like, listen, the NBA, like, on any night, a crappy team can beat a good team. It just happens. And Tatum is not her stud. I mean, how many 23-year-olds drop 50? I mean, this kid is an absolute superstar. I mean, you're also complaining about style points with him. I mean, I think what the Celtics' problem is you guys are complaining about ISO ball. Believe me, I've been watching ISO ball at the Knicks for the last 8 years. Of course, it's not pretty to watch. But, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess you just need more facilitation, ball movement, right? I guess that's what the problem is with the Celtics.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it was. That's what the ball, like when we were the crap Celtics, that like the Isaiah Thomas led Celtics, it was passing the ball the open guy. I mean, the team was sucked. Like Jay Crowder was our third best player. Like our team was not good, but it was fun to watch, and they never gave up. They played hard in every possession. And you watch this team, you have all talent in the world. You know, Evan Fournier is coming off our bench now as our sixth man. This team should be the fourth, if not best team in the NBA or in the Eastern Conference. Sorry, we barely beat the shittiest teams in the league. And then when we played the 76ers, the Nets, it's not even on it. It's like playing the Monstars, playing like the Looney Tunes in Space Jam. It's not even a question. Like this team it's every season it either progresses or degresses. I know, White, for you it's hard because you know the Knicks suck every year. No offense, but you have to be inspired this year. Like they play hard. He's also getting the best out of R.J. Barrett, Julius Randle, and then some of the other guys they drafted are good players. And it's fun to watch. Watch your Celtics game and not try to blow your brains out. It's just miserable. I'd rather watch the WNBA sometimes than watch Celtics.
I mean, I did watch your Celtics beat the Knicks in a classic. I'm not going to say heavyweight fight, but we did throw bows, I should say. And it was a tight game to the end. I mean, so you're right. The Celtics should be number 4th. The Hawks have no business being the 4th team in the East. I'm sorry. I mean,
wait, Atlanta's the 4th team in the East?
Yeah,
they're the 4th team in the East right now.
Atlanta Hawks. Oh my god.
Yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea how I have no idea how the Hornets are winning. The Hornets and Hawks have no business being up there. Like the Celtics.
Exactly.
The Hornets have like been winning more since LaMelo got hurt. Like what the hell? How
I
are they
don't
winning
understand.
games?
I don't get that. I do not understand that. But you're right. The Celtics should be the 4th. I would actually say the Heat should be the 4th. The Celtics 5th. You know, you can rearrange that how you want. And then I think the 6th should be the Knicks. I mean, the Knicks are playing. They're the second best. I think they're the best defensive team in basketball. I mean, I think their defensive rating is number 2 in the league. They're the best defensive team in basketball. I like their offense drives me crazy sometimes because they just are not a good shooting team. Like they don't have a lot of 3-point shooting. So I'm watching R.J. Barrett like crush 3-pointers recently. Like he's shooting like over the last 3 months, R.J. Barrett is shooting like over 42% from 3. And I actually have a stat about that. Like, so he's putting up 18 points, 5 boards, shooting better than 42% from 3. And the only other players in the league that have done that the last 3 months is Joker, Durant, Levine, and Curry. So R.J. Barrett, this kid's completely disrespected. He left off the top 25, under 25 list that we talked about last week. Disgraceful. But, I mean, as a Knicks fan, dude, like I would trade RJ for Tatum in a heartbeat.
Oh yeah,
Just offensive talent.
let's not take anything for granted. I don't want to trade Tatum. I just want to be better. I don't want RJ Barrett for Tatum. I think RJ Barrett's going to be a much better career than John Morant. And I've been saying that since day one. My biggest thing is that Jaylen Brown is more of a dog than Tatum is. Tatum's a nice guy, and like, unfortunately, like with every superstar, he's going to have to overcome some adversity at a young age. The problem for him is he came in when he got drafted. He's on a team with Kyrie Irving, Gordon Hayward, Al Horford. He's got a great team. He went to the East. He's been in the Eastern Conference Finals, two times already. He's been in the playoffs every single year. And us in Boston, we just want we're so greedy, and I'm greedy myself.
Spoiled,
I want, but like when you have this, like we have in all the teams in the NBA, we have a top 10 like duo. I think that's fair to say, and they're in the prime, and they're only going to get better. But it's just, come on, can we just like, you should beat these teams easily, all these teams.
All right, here's what I just want to say to your point earlier, Justin, though. You were saying that when Brad Stevens like had these guys that weren't as good as some of these guys, that they played like more team ball. It's like, I feel like you ultimately almost don't want team ball in summer because you want like stars. Like it seems you wouldn't rather have that team that they had a few years ago than this team. Like this team would be better if you could get them playing, like having legit stars like,
of course,
Tatum is ultimately what you want.
Expectations were a lot lower, obviously, back then. And it was like, who's this little guy coming out of nowhere? He's in the MVP race. And like, this team's exciting to watch. And then I agree with you. Like, you want stars. A lot of it's Danny's fault, the way he built this team. There's not enough shooters. I don't think Tatum trusts a lot of the guys on the team to give him the ball. And Kemba Walker, I mean, Jesus, like, you can have him for RJ Barrett if you want. I'll take Frank Ntilikina for him for this point.
Seriously, I'll take that.
We have a quota of one Frank Ntilikina disc per show. Justin just said it.
Is Taj Gibson still there? We'll take him for Kemba. You just want them to be. You just want them to want it. You want them to fight, and they used to fight every game, and they just don't. It's like a casual, like, if we lost, it's okay, like, whatever. You want them to fight and claw for, like, games. I know it's a regular season, but I see them out in the first round of the playoffs this year. I don't know about you guys. I could see the Knicks going farther than the Celtics this year in the playoffs.
I think the difference between the Celtics and the Knicks don't have that superstar talent. Like, I mean, Randall's an all-star. Yeah, he's been playing out of his mind this year. RJ Barrett could become a superstar, but he's not there yet. He's a few years behind Tatum in that growth pool. That's what wins in the playoffs. Like superstar players take over games, and like no Knicks player is going to take over a game in a playoff game. I mean, Randall, like he can get hot. RJ has shown that he can be clutch. I mean, he led. We were down by the Grizzlies by like 13 points with like 5 minutes left the other night. RJ Barrett led a comeback, putting up 15 points in the fourth quarter and OT. There's flashes, but like you said, we're a year away. We need that superstar talent, and I just think teams with those superstars win in the playoffs. And the Celtics have one, and they have 1A. Like James, I would say 1. The other guys 1A, but yeah, I mean, I know, Billy, you hate Marcus Smart, but Marcus Smart hit a freaking dagger against the Knicks when we played you guys. He can hit some threes. I know
he must have taken 15 of them, I'm sure.
He takes too many, but I feel like he hits threes in the
blind squirrel finds a nut when you hoist up 15.
I mean, the Knicks started last night's game against the Lakers 1 for 11 from 3. I mean, we can't hit threes like the way the Celtics could. So the Celtics would definitely beat the Knicks in the playoffs.
What's crazy is that I think for how much we shit on Marcus Smart, I would start him over Kemba right now. He's a better point guard. And, I mean, Marcus is a much better passer, much better defender. And if he's shooting 7-8 times a game, I mean, Kemba's every game 1 for 8 from 3. I mean, it's a ridiculous stat. He gets no assists. He plays 0 defense. I mean, if you have Kemba coming off the bench and he's playing against the number 2s, and he's like playing that Isaiah role when he first got here, just hitting a couple quick shots against number 2s, I think that's more valuable to the Celtics than having Kemba start at this point.
I thought you guys at the beginning of the year were loving Kemba like over Kyrie.
I mean, I am a little surprised to hear Justin say this.
Well, no, but honestly, like if you think about it, though, like
Smart isn't more suited for like the bench than Kemba is.
No, so here's what I'm saying, Billy. If you start Fournier at the 2 and you have Smart at the 1, Smart's the passer. Smart's a much better passer than Kemba is. And you have Kemba coming off the bench and is like the number 1 guy taking as many shots as you want against number 2s. I feel like that's more valuable. And you could have them rotate game in, game out. If Kemba's really hot, leave him in for a little bit. But Marcus is a much better passer. He's a much better defender. And if he's with 4 other guys that are better than him, he's not going to be taking all these shots. But when Marcus is coming in to lead the second unit, he's taking like 10 threes because there's no one else to shoot the ball.
Yeah, I guess I could get behind that movement, bringing Kemba off and just letting him go nuts on second squads.
That's what we wanted with Hayward last year. We wish Hayward would have came off the bench. He didn't fit in with the starters. And when Kemba doesn't play, Marcus actually plays pretty well. He's got better chemistry with Robert Williams than Marcus does, or Kemba.
So, real quick before we end, we'll talk a little bit about Steph Curry taking over Wilt Chamberlain's record for all-time points with the Golden State Warriors, and capped it off with a 53-point effort. I actually saw a debate on this earlier today and thought we should touch on it. Somebody was making a case basically that Steph Curry could be the greatest point guard of all time. In your mind, is he by the end of his career, is there any way we end up considering Steph Curry as one of the top point guards of all time? Like, one of the top 2 or 3?
I think so.
You think he's top, Whitey?
I think he's top.
You think he's better than Magic Johnson?
Well, Magic was a better passer, but Magic couldn't even shoot even close to how good Curry can shoot. And right now it's a shooter's league. I mean, yeah. Curry is a really gifted passer too. He's got a gifted dribble. I mean, he broke Chris Paul's ankles. Chris Paul's one of the most feistiest, best defending point guard. He breaks Chris Paul's ankles like it's nothing. Chuck up a 3, it goes in like every other time. I mean, I would take if I'm a team and I have a choice of a point guard, it's going to be Curry. And I would even say Damian Lillard would be like my second choice, but Curry is clearly the best point. I think he's the best point guard of all time. Magic.
You can see how you could make an argument. I mean, it certainly changed the game with his 3-point shooting ability. I mean, this year he's on pace to hit 5 threes a game again. He's already done this 2 other times in his career. Not shooting 5 threes, making 5 threes a game. I mean, that is just. Sure. I mean, he is a talent like we've never seen.
Yeah, like it's not like he's just a 3-point shooter. I mean, the guy is a really good passer. He's a really good passer. He's not the greatest defender. Like I would take, like an Isaiah Thomas over him defensively, but he's box office. He hits no one. He's the best shooter of all time, and I don't even think there's going to be another person to be a better shooter than him in the future. In the next 20 years, maybe there will be because now all kids are chucking threes. Like when we played like basketball, CYO basketball, we never took threes. Like that's a new generation thing.
Well, you just make it sound like we grew up in the 60s.
Yeah.
CYO basketball, bro, in the 90s. But yeah, he's clearly the best shooter of all time. And like, he's not a bad passer. He's a really good passer. He's got great court vision. So like, it's impossible to defend because if you guard him, he's gonna like do a little step back, chuck a 3, or he's gonna find someone open. If he gets double teamed, he's gonna find someone open. It's kind of like that. Like LeBron has a similar gift. But yeah, I don't know. He's my number 1 of all time. Curious to see how you guys think.
So I think 1 and 2. The reason why I'm ranking them in like the top 2 is because they changed the game forever. Magic Johnson changed the game forever from a point guard position because of how big he was, an athletic freak. He changed the point guard position forever. Steph Curry did the same thing. The one thing Steph Curry has that even Kevin Durant doesn't have He won an NBA championship without a super team per se, and he beat LeBron doing it. If he didn't do that and he won with just Kevin Durant, things change. But he did that without Kevin Durant, and that was with Draymond Green as their third best player. Actually, no, probably Iguodala was, but I mean that team was Clay and Steph. My third all time, just because he's one of them, I love him forever, is Allen Iverson. He's one of the greatest of all time, in my opinion, for his size and what he could accomplish. Unmatched. I don't know, Billy. What do you think?
I mean, AI, would we count him as more of like a shooting guard? That's the only thing I would think of. Like, I would have AI up there too, but I think of him maybe more as a shooting. I mean, he could pass too, but yes, but I would definitely have AI high in my rankings if that was him. But I think personally, it's probably like Magic was maybe like the better point guard. Like when we think of like point guard, but I think like with what Curry can do from three, I mean he's so lethal. And Whitey was saying he's good at the other stuff, and that's true. And it's just like the 3-point ability makes him so dangerous that you have to respect it. So he's going to have all that space. Like it's just you can't leave Steph Curry open. I mean he shoots 45% when he's covered by like two guys.
He also shut a lot of the doubters down this year by coming back after his injury last year and putting up MVP caliber numbers with a
team that's not good either.
Exactly. So he just shut everyone. This year kind of cemented him as one of the greats all-time point guard position.
Yeah, the Warriors are right now. They'd be in the play-in tournament. With Kelly Oubre, who's like so hit and miss. He's so hit and miss. Kelly Oubre. Wiseman. I mean, he's been really good.
Miss.
Yeah.
Don't forget about Wiggins.
Draymond Green is completely washed up. So like Curry doesn't have much he doesn't have much to play with, and he still has his team, in the playoffs basically, in the play-in tournament. Because right now they're the 10th seed.
Agreed.
All right. Well, hey, on that friendly note, as we all agree, we will end the show, and we appreciate everybody tuning in. We'll catch you next week, same time, same place. All right. Take care.